Welcome to the Izzy Chinche Show.
I've definitely tried to work on being there for myself and giving myself advice and taking the time to listen to myself.
Yeah.
Because when I'm not, it's because I'm truly just not being there for myself and not respecting myself.
I'm so excited you're able to tune in. Join me as I interview athletes, entrepreneurs, and high achievers. I also share much about my life struggles, trials, and successes in hopes to inspire you. I intend for this show to be one of the greatest shows of all time, so your listening and support means the most to me. My goal is to help inspire as many people as possible, so please share with a friend if you enjoyed just one thing from today's episode. Together, we can help more people grow. Let's get started.
Bradley, welcome to Push the Goal podcast. I'm excited that you're here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm excited to just have a conversation. I have a lot of random questions, but
Sure, I love it.
I mean, the first thing I want to talk about is water polo and cancer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just dive right in.
Yeah, let's just dive right in. Why don't you
sure.
start telling me about that, and we'll just flow.
Yeah, so I was always very active as a kid. Total Energizer Bunny athlete. This was, back in the 90s when kids played outside still.
Yeah.
And
go find sticks.
Exactly. Yep. Your friends were where your friends were was based on the
where you live,
the bikes in the front yard kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I was very active, played sports, baseball, soccer, all that stuff when I was super young, and then I really fell in love with water polo, and I was a good swimmer. I was
Where'd
quick.
you learn to swim? Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, it's cool. I just at my summer club
At a summer
that
club?
we belong to. Yeah, I've been swimming since I was 3 or whatever.
Okay, so you're always in the water. Okay.
Exactly, little fish. And so I fell in love with water polo. I was highly influenced by my older cousin, who is a big role model for me, Peter. And he was a superstar water polo player himself. And I started playing the sport, got really good, did a bunch of traveling throughout the country. I was in Connecticut at the time, so I flew out to California a bunch for the Junior Olympics and all that stuff. And it sounds a little bit more fancy than it actually is, but it's still technically titled the Junior Olympics. I fell in love with California and the palm trees and that kind of Hollywood life of the beach and all that stuff. So anyway, I knew I wanted to go out to California for school, play college ball at some point, and even after my freshman season was wrapping up, because it's a fall sport, I was already talking to school. So at 14, I was, pretty stellar athlete for the time, my age, as well as already talking to school. So I was confident. Let's just say that, to be nice to my former self.
Yeah.
I was very confident, and I pretty much was on a let's party hard and work out hard, and I'll kind of coast on this athlete wave for the rest of my life, basically.
Yeah, that was the plan.
That was the plan. Yep. As it goes, life never goes according to plan.
Yeah.
And so immediately after my freshman season, I was diagnosed with leukemia.
Wow.
I went from, again, super high energy, in very, very good shape because I was just coming off season, to, very lethargic and sleeping like 20 hours a day.
Wow.
And so because it was such a drastic, I would try to stand up and I would wake up on the floor because I fainted.
Wow.
Because my body was so busy fighting at the time.
So your Energizer self was probably just putting all that literally towards fighting. It probably didn't change. It just focused on something else.
Exactly.
Okay.
And eventually
it
just kind of, because it was leukemia, that's cancer of the blood. So it's not like a tumor in one location.
Yeah.
It basically the cancer spreads throughout your body.
I don't know. My grandma died of cancer, but I do not know much about cancer. Is that common for that age group is that?
Not for 14-year-olds.
Yeah,
Leukemia is much more common in, say, toddlers and young kids.
Okay.
As well as adults. I believe it's over the age of 35.
Okay.
So
it was
that
a rare
teen young adult gap is very rare.
Okay.
And especially the fact that the condition and shape that I was in postseason, you would think I was so healthy, but basically the doctors, I mean, there's no way of actually knowing, but the doctors think that I just ran myself into the ground throughout the season, and so my body was kind of hit when it was already like, kind of depleted.
Wow.
But at the same time, because of the shape I was in and all that stuff, I was able to, know something was wrong very quickly. It was very early detection, which is a huge factor. And
what was that process even like? You're just like, I can't walk, I need to go see the doctor? Or?
Yeah, so what's really common among swimmers, and I would also imagine athletes, you being a former athlete, is mono.
Yes.
Because you're sharing water bottles and especially like in the pool.
Yeah. So I did, this is not to your level at all, but I was on the swim team.
Okay.
And my brother was on the swim team. So, and I remember people talking about mono like constantly. Like it was like, oh, you like there, get away from them. Like it was such a thing. Like yes. Okay. So I remember that.
And one thing with mono is one of the kind of main side effects, if you will, or impact is your energy level.
Yes.
You're sleeping all the time. So we thought, oh, he probably just has mono. So that lasted all of maybe 48 hours.
Okay.
That kind of assumption. And then because I was sleeping so much, I wasn't eating or drinking, right? I was just asleep. Okay. And so eventually that all caught up with me. And that lightheaded, dizzy feeling you get when you stand up too quickly. Yeah. And you kind of get that head
you're like, oh.
I was experiencing that regardless of kind of how slowly I stood up. And I remember,
walking, you would feel that.
Well, just I couldn't stand up.
Okay.
I was so weak. Like I had to like lay down. I only wanted to go back to bed.
Wow.
And I was on the second floor of the house, and it took me about 2 hours to get downstairs because like I'd take a few steps and like have to take a nap.
Wow.
Like super intense. And then at that point, when I couldn't stand up, my parents were like, all right, let's go, talk to some professionals. Yeah. And so went to the hospital. At this point, I'm, wheeled in a wheelchair because I can't walk. Again, just out of exhaustion, not, anything else. And so they did my blood work. They rushed that. And by the time we got home, which was 15, 20 minutes away, so they really...
Rushed it.
Yeah, they really rushed it. There was a message on the machine saying, hey, we need you guys to kind of, talk to this other doctor because things are looking a little weird. And they never drop the C word if, unless you're absolutely sure.
Okay.
And so they were just like, maybe the lab messed up, but we want to send you to this professional. So they sent us to a beautiful, amazing children's hospital, Maria Ferrari Children's Hospital in New York. Oh, wow. Valhalla, New York.
How far is that from where you guys lived?
That was about 45 minutes or so.
Okay.
So not too far.
Not bad. Okay.
In terms of like the Connecticut border, you have that little like thing that sticks out.
Yeah.
Little handle, and we're at the southernmost like tip of that.
Okay, so you're right there.
We're right across from New York, pretty much. And I was brought into that hospital, and I was put to sleep because they had to do a bone marrow biopsy. So they drilled a little hole into the back, my hip bone, and extracted some bone marrow. And by the time I woke up, the doctors were telling my parents and all that stuff.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, so I was told pretty much immediately after that operation, and I started chemo that night, and chemotherapy lasted, with pills included, about 4.5 years. Wow. So,
Yeah, that was a lot.
It was a lot, and it happened very quickly.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly.
When you woke up, and they were telling it to you, what was your, do you remember what you felt?
Oh,
Do you remember? Yeah, can you expand on that? What is it that you felt?
So that's one of those moments where, regardless, I would imagine for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. At this point, it's been 15 years, 16 years, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. Just because it's so it was such a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
It completely changed the trajectory of my life.
Yeah.
For the better, I will say. But
love that.
Yeah, so I just remember waking up. I was super sore because the hole in my back. I was still drugged up from the laughing gas and anesthesia and all that stuff. But I remember for any of the families that are about to be told something like this, they put you in a private room.
Okay.
As they should. And so we were, it's a moment for the family. And so I woke up in the private room, and this hospital, what makes it so great is it's a teaching hospital. It's connected to a university. And so I just remember being in a room surrounded like a horseshoe of just white coats, all of which were primarily students. I don't know why they were there, but apparently I came out of the operation like belly laughing from the laughing gas or something. I don't know. They're like, we've never seen it before, but I was like completely asleep, but also belly laughing and
wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know much about that, but that's why there were so many people in it, and there was a nurse to my.
Wait, so all these people were in there because they're like, this kid is laughing. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like, and I was like asleep. I was like knocked out.
You're like, look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they were all laughing. They were like laughing at me laughing because they've never seen anything like it. And my parents were in the other room being told by the doctors, and so they walked back in, seeing everybody laughing, and for a split second, they were like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
But then they realized what was happening. Obviously, they were in shock. They weren't trying to, like, pick a fight or anything. But it just added to the confusion of the overall
like, what is
situation.
going on? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, but anyway, so as I woke up, the doctors were all there, or the students were all there, and I was holding, or this nurse, Linda, never forget her, she was holding my hand. No idea. I never met her before, and she just kind of caught my attention. We had our little moment of looking at each other, and she was like, "Whatever you're about to hear, like, everything's gonna be okay."
Aww.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, who are you, and why are you saying this to me?" But like, okay. And then the doctor came in. I saw my parents come in. All the other students left, and all that stuff. Doctors came in with my folks, and truth be told, this was the first time in my life where I saw either my parents cry or hold hands.
Wow.
And so because of that's when I knew. It wasn't Linda telling me, whatever you're about to hear, like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, this is serious.
I'm like, you're a stranger.
Yeah.
But though looking back, it was a very
nice gesture.
Very like heartfelt moment.
Yeah.
But for me at the time, at 14, seeing my parents teary-eyed and holding hands, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That was my oh shit moment.
Yeah.
And then so the doctor came in, and they're very blunt about it. They're very they're very matter of fact. Mm-hmm. They come in, they don't sugarcoat it, which I would imagine they were, and I very much respect it. I think they were trying to treat me like an adult because I was at that weird age.
Yeah.
Like, they're used to talking like an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
You're not going to be like matter of fact with an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
But talking to a 14-year-old, teenager.
You're old enough to know what's going on.
Yeah, and if you're going to start that relationship with the kid that is going to last for years until he really is an adult.
Yeah.
I would imagine that they wanted to approach it from a respectful.
Yeah.
We're going to treat you like a big boy kind of
thing.
Yeah. And so I was very appreciative of that because he came in and introduced himself, and basically he was like, you have leukemia. Basically, do you know what that means? And I was like, nope. I've heard the word, but like couldn't tell you what it is.
It's not good.
Yeah, but I didn't even really understand how not good it was. Right. Mm-hmm. I never thought about leukemia. There was no reason for me to. Mm-hmm. And so he told me that it's cancer of the blood, and once he dropped the C word, I was kind of a deer in the headlights. I was like, fuck, okay.
Yeah.
And that's, so I blacked out after that. He probably did some whole like medical spiel of what the next few years of my life was going to look like and all that stuff. But I kind of snapped back into it when he said, as he was wrapping up, he's like, we're going to do everything we can to, keep you alive. And, do you have any questions? and I just remember asking him, like, am I going to die? And he's like, again, we're going to do everything that we can. But, things are looking very good. At the time, I believe, this was 2006. I think for my type of leukemia, and kind of like the rest of the stats linked to that situation, how early it was detected, the shape that I was in beforehand and all that stuff, it very much, I think the odds of survival like 80 to 85%.
Okay.
So even despite the fact that I had just been diagnosed with cancer, my situation was almost a best case scenario.
Nice. Okay.
You know what I mean? It's weird to say that, but
right, for the worst case scenario, it was one of the best.
Yeah, very much so. And like comparing to all the other kids in the hospital and like the ages they were going through, some kids were dealing, they were 3 years old and dealing with 2 different types of cancer, one of which the doctors literally didn't even have a name for.
Oh my gosh.
There was one kid that the type of cancer he had was so rare they ended up naming it after him. Jesus. So like when you hear that stuff, you're like, oh, like I'm on easy street, like nothing to complain about. And so I had a few. It took a little bit to get to that point of realization. But I never was. I certainly had my moments of being why me and a brat, and kind of like throwing the pity party for myself. Mm-hmm. Absolutely had my moments throughout the entire experience. But,
understandable.
But at the same time, I do remember very quickly realizing like, okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
This is the hand I was dealt. Like,
deal with it.
There's nothing I can do about it. Like, let's just like focus our attention elsewhere.
Yeah.
I was actually most pissed at the fact that I was going to miss school because I had just entered high school, and I was super stoked to be in high school.
Yeah.
I was like, I was a freshman, so my older brother was a senior, and so like we only had so much overlap together.
Oh,
we were like driving to school every day together and all that stuff, and then it was I wasn't able to do that anymore. So that was the hardest part, is not actually being able to be in school.
How quickly did you think about water polo in that situation?
After I got sick?
Yeah. They told you you're diagnosed, you realize high school, or are you thinking about, what about water polo, or that wasn't even?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question, because for me, the community that I had at school was... I had a very, very good group of friends that was not associated with the water polo team.
Wow, yeah.
But I also, had some great relationships on the water polo team. So I thought of it in like more of a social sense. Okay. But because we had just ended the season, I wasn't worried about the next season.
You're kind of ready for the break. I
was like, I have some time.
Yeah.
But then once the doctors told me that pretty much I was never going to play water polo again, certainly at the level that I was and trajectory to continue on.
When did that conversation take place?
That happened probably 2 weeks into being diagnosed. Okay. And the reason for that is I had a port put into my chest, and it's basically, it's a little well, about the size of a quarter, probably, quarter inch thick or whatever. And it's placed under the skin and stitched into your muscle. And it has a tube that connects to your artery. And that's where they put all the chemo in. So, they inject it through a needle. It's an IV and all that stuff. But it goes into this artificial well and vein. So they don't have to keep putting it through your actual veins, because chemo is a poison. I mean, that's literally what it is. It's put into your body to kill everything, good and the bad. That's why you lose your hair and so forth, all the side effects and all that stuff, because it's just poison. And because of that, some of the chemo strands or, batches, because they're different colors and all this stuff. Some are like neon green, like Gatorade in a bag kind of looking. But anyway, some of them are so toxic that if it were to touch your skin, it would burn you. Which is weird to think that you're putting that into your body.
That is.
So if you were to, say, have an IV put in through a your normal vein, and it were to not be super secure, and therefore it like leaks a little bit, you could actually be burned from the inside out, kind of thing. So it's just all this stuff that over the years they've have been able to avoid all this nonsense side effects by
all the extra
implementing the important stuff. So
so then that limits physical activity or water, or what exactly is the restraint?
Because there's that tube and it's connected to an artery. If I were to get hit and it breaks or dislodges and that tube gets loose, then it's like the tube's like in my veins, and not like being controlled.
And it
could like lead to a stroke and all. So they're just like, as long as you have that in, you can't play.
Wow.
And then I was like, that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
So, fast forward about a year plus, and I was able to finally convince my doctor to at least take the port out. So I can start getting back into the gym and doing and just being active because I was 15, 16 at the time. And so he finally took the port out, and I rejoined the water polo team my junior year of high school, but I never played. It was kind of more like
you can come back and you're a part of this.
Just more of a, sure, we saved your spot for you, but I wasn't really practicing. I wasn't really doing much because I couldn't. I didn't have the energy. I was still, I'd go to weights in the morning, go to school, and then like go to the hospital and get shot up with chemo for a few hours, and then try to do it again. And so I just
you still did weights and like went to school all day. So you kind of lived that. Did have that normal high school experience? Normal.
So I returned to school. I returned to school my sophomore year, and then junior year was. By the time junior year came around, I had gotten the port taken out, and I rejoined the team, but only from a celebratory area. Traditional. I was part of it, but. The good thing one of the great things about this, the cancer diagnosis was it made me realize sooner than I'd like, but when I think I needed to, that, sports don't last forever. And also like your health, is like, don't take your health for granted. And I definitely was, because I was partying and stuff before I, got sick. So I wasn't great.
You were partying really young. You mentioned that. Yes. And I was like, so did you have older siblings that were pulling you into that? How was that happening? Because 14 to me, 14, 13, that's pretty young to be.
To most people it is. I would say, I won't say my brother's pulling me into it, because I don't want to make him responsible for my actions.
I don't want to phrase it that way. I was like, where is the influence that got you?
Well, there's always influence, indirect influence of wanting to keep up with your older brother, and his friends and all that stuff. And you're certainly exposed to things earlier than friends that don't have older siblings. So that was absolutely the case, and very much the case for all my friends that had older siblings.
Okay, so you're in that group, and then the older siblings. I get it.
So there was that, but also is really just my area. So I'm from a very affluent town. My family happens to live there. We're not one of those participants in the super affluent area, but I'm from Greenwich, Connecticut, which is referred to as like the hedge fund capital of the world.
Oh, gotcha.
A bunch of billionaires, and it's just a very wealthy area because many of the people that live there work in New York, like in the financial
district,
corporate lawyers, just big money jobs, and so it's just a very highly concentrated, area of wealth.
Yeah,
and so because of that, parents are very busy. And kids have access to resources.
Yeah. Stuff laying
big,
around. Yeah.
Like houses that are empty for parties and money to purchase things and so forth. And so, it's, you kind of see it in like, I don't know if you ever saw the show growing up, The O.C.
I never.
So it was kind of like a Dawson's Creek type of show.
Yeah.
Based out in Orange County, Southern California, and it was basically following these rich kids around.
Yeah. No, I do know this. I do know this show. Yeah. Yes.
Like Summer and Marissa. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so because the rich kids, like they were getting drugs and crashing daddy's car.
Yeah. Exposed.
Different types of. Troubles.
Yeah.
And so that's
okay. That's
type of
very
stuff that
interesting.
happens in my hometown sometimes as well.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I started partying pretty early.
So then, did that stop because of chemo, or did you were you crossing that, or there was no way to do that, or how did that?
No, so certainly for the first year, I basically turned into a hermit. I was just at home. My immune system was so low that I wasn't really able to go out.
Yeah.
And my friends would just come over and all that stuff. Also, I didn't have the energy. And then after returning to high school, sophomore, junior, senior year, I definitely started getting back into socializing.
Yeah.
Definitely had moments, went out and everything. Tried to have the most fun I could. I wasn't able to drink from a medical standpoint, let alone a legal standpoint.
That would make sense though.
Yeah, but certainly not a legal standpoint. But from a medical standpoint, because of the certain pills I was taking, mixed with alcohol in my liver and kidneys, it basically shut me down. So I did not drink or anything like that. But I definitely socialized and went out. But so I kept with it, but at the same time I also had a different outlook on life almost immediately.
Nice.
Like,
I love that.
It's not that I don't need to do this, but why do it and take away the health that you might have, or impede on the health that you currently have. Don't take it for granted type of thing. So I definitely developed a different outlook on life very quickly from diagnosis and everything.
Yeah. So then senior year and after senior year, what happened there? You went.
So after senior year, I moved out to California. I went to Loyola Marymount University, which was an amazing school. Very grateful for getting in. But after I moved out there, the high of college was very much, there.
Because now you're cancer free, right?
Yeah, I'm cancer free, doing some check-ins here and there, but I'm all good. No longer doing chemo. I can kind of return to normal.
Okay.
And really, I saw it as a chance to kind of restart. No long, new area. Basically, didn't know anybody.
That's so interesting, though. To restart, because I feel college, at that age, you're oh, now it's starting. You've already had so much experience and of hardship, and then also partying at a young age. You're now I get a restart, and you're what, 19, 18?
Yeah,
that's pretty young to have a restart, but that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, it was absolutely, and honestly, because of the need to have that reset. Yeah. I went through a really tough time because as I was going through this reset, to really use that word again, I realized that I had no idea who I was. I had no idea what I was into. I felt like I had lost 4 critical years of self-discovery, but also just like socialization.
Wow, yeah.
And making friends and putting yourself out there and being confident. And I really struggled with lack of confidence because wherever I was going throughout high school, I was the cancer kid. And people were very nice to me, but like,
You were still the cancer kid.
Yeah, I felt
you didn't want that to be your identity.
Yeah, and like if I walked into a room and people looked at me, they could be thinking, "Oh, he's wearing a blue shirt," but I thought they were thinking, "Oh, there's the cancer kid."
Wow.
And, people would come up to me very early on after returning to school sophomore year and be like, "Hey, I thought you died." Like all this stuff. And I don't blame anybody. Like, I don't think they meant ill by it. I think
it just is compounding in your mind. And
also it was, they're also 15, 16 years old. Like, what do they know about the situation? You can't expect them to know how to socially navigate that stuff either properly. So, it just, having lost so many years of socialization, all that stuff, I felt like there was no way I was ever going to make up for the lost time while also establishing myself and keeping up with where I was supposed to be in college with my college friends.
Supposed to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all those things that we put on ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, I really struggled trying to figure out who I was. And
what were you majoring in?
Sociology.
I majored in sociology.
Oh, really?
Wow, that's cool.
Well, that was because I wanted to kind of pursue possibly law enforcement or something post college, and that was one of the majors where I was like, I could take this and go down like a law enforcement type route, or I could go into business with marketing or
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea what I wanted.
Like sociology, it is. Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, just kind of play it safe in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
Not going too extreme on either side, but so because I was going through this reset and I was like, okay, I have this chance to kind of start, carving out who I want to be and who I'm supposed to be post this experience.
Yeah.
I learned very quickly that I wasn't going to be able to address any of that stuff in forming this new, improved me until I dealt with all the baggage that I had accumulated over the years without knowing. And it really came, rearing its ugly head all at once.
Okay.
To the, in the form of extreme depression and anxiety. I almost took my own life a few times over the course of my college career, for one reason or another, but it was all based around extreme depression and the feeling of extreme overwhelmed, a sense of being overwhelmed and not feeling as though I'm ever going to get ahead or make up for lost time. So I just felt like, what's the point?
Yeah. Wow.
But,
I'm sorry.
Well, I appreciate that, but again, I fully acknowledge that I am still here to talk about it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's so many other young people out there that actually go through with it and don't have the ability to regret that thought pattern that I had.
Yeah.
And the best thing that I can do is take these experiences and try to help the next generation avoid them.
So what did that process look like, digging yourself out of that hole / how long was it?
Yeah. From a timing perspective, it really just depended what else was going on. How much time I had to focus on it. And how many times beforehand I had to do it. In the beginning, I mean, I would say it took me probably over a year to realize that I was on my own to figure this out. And then mustering the energy and the wherewithal to even go about figuring out how to solve this problem for myself, and then pursuing, accumulating the proper resources.
Did you see a therapist or?
I talked to a professional, yes, but very infrequently. and never when I actually needed to. The bad moments, I couldn't talk to someone for months. Like, they had month-long wait lists. And then, so I was, and this always seemed to happen, and I'm sure others can relate to it, but I'm in a really bad spot, pick up the phone, call the doctor, schedule that meeting for 3 months out.
Yep.
Because
and then 3
that's
months
the
comes
soonest.
around.
Yeah,
You're feeling okay that day.
It's like,
I don't need to go.
Good.
I'm good. Yes.
Yeah. So how's everything?
I've been through that.
No,
yeah.
I'm all right. Yeah.
I'm fine. I don't why am I here?
Yeah, and then I was like trying to think back to the previous thing. I'm like,
it was bad. I'm fine. Yes, yeah. I completely understand that.
And that just kept happening.
It's a cycle, and then you never address the issue. Yes.
Yeah. And meanwhile, you're paying an arm and a leg to have this meaningless conversation.
Exactly. And you're like, this is a waste of time, and then it talks you out of doing it the next time. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, the thing that helped me most was definitely self-help books.
Yeah.
Because I am very guilty of being pretty good at lending advice to people, just based on my own experience and range of experiences. But I'm terrible at taking my own advice. So at least for me, when I read a self-help book, even if it's saying something that, I would say to somebody else or whatever, by the book saying it to me, it helps me realize, like, oh yeah, okay, I should probably do this. Because somebody else is telling me.
I think that's common. We're very good at giving advice to other people. But I've definitely tried to work on being there for myself and giving myself advice and taking the time to listen to myself. Yeah. Because when I'm not, it's because I'm truly just not being there for myself and not respecting myself.
Yep.
For like that's all it comes down to, it being like, oh, I'm not worth it to sit here and listen, but I'm like someone else is. Like, no, I should be listening, I can listen and actually help myself. But that's been an interesting battle, like coming out of that, like why is that I don't listen to my own advice? Yep. Yeah, because I'm just not feeling worthy of my own advice. Yep. And it's like an interesting cycle there, but yep, I think that's common for sure. I think that's something that we're all guilty of at times. Yeah. So what were some of the pivotal books though? I love reading.
So off the top of my head, You Are a Badass is a fantastic book. There at the time, I actually was reading a bunch of like Navy SEAL special operations,
like Jocko.
I can't think of them off the top of my head. Yeah, like all those types of books, but also just like individual stories of team guys, like a Marcus Luttrell and Lone Survivor, things like that. And
that just get you out of that victim mentality, kind of. Yeah,
and really kind of helping me get that bigger picture perspective that I had during treatment, and bringing that back to my current situation and applying it to what I was up against now.
Nice.
Which was just going through it, life and trying to figure everything out. And it's such a common, widespread shared experience among so many young people. And it sucks because we all think, going back to like kind of like the stubbornness and an ego, issue with each of us, we think what we're going through is so special and unique to us that we feel crazy or burdened and alone, and therefore we don't share it. Mm-hmm. And if only we were to share it with probably the vast majority of people in our lives, in one way or another, they would all be able to relate, and you would then feel as though you're not alone, and it's okay, we're all in this together. And so anyway,
I love that. I'm definitely trying to embody that now, and I really believe like our mess can become our message. And I say can because it can if you choose it to be, but so often we just hide it because I know I'll feel like, oh, I don't want to share that. What if it made this like false sense of like disqualification that can come with actually expressing your human experiences. And that's what I've been trying to step on, just even in my podcast, like explaining like the things that I have actually struggled with, the things that have been hard, just relating to that that therapy thing, even like seeing someone like, yeah, like, that loop, someone probably needs to hear that. Like, those are the things that actually qualify us. And we get in our own way, like, oh, this is going to disqualify me. I shouldn't say that. Exactly. It's like, no, I need to be a human, the most real that I can be.
Yeah. And I think, a real contributing factor, a key contributing factor to the reason we all feel this way is social media. And we are now conditioned based on how many times each one of us interact with social media platform, news media and all that stuff. But we're all constantly comparing our internal experience and feelings and all this stuff with the filtered perfect picture, the 1 out of 50 takes taken of somebody's exterior facade that's posted. And so we're comparing, apples and oranges with everybody else in our lives. Yeah. And it sets this false precedent and feeling that we really are going through our own unique experience in terms of depression and stuff. And you are, but at the same time, there's going to be a lot of overlap and shared experience.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, in one way or another with those closest.
And I like that you're saying because it makes you feel like it is unique. I forget where it is, but I was recently learning that anxiety comes from the feeling of being alone. It comes from disconnection. Mm-hmm. And because we're disconnected, then everything that we have to do feels overwhelming. But if you can try and sit back and just try and connect, and that's what I try and do, like when I'm having those like high anxiety moments, I just try and connect to like every single person that I know. Mm-hmm. Like in my inner circle, like I go through and I literally picture I have 7 siblings. So like if I wake up from even a nightmare, like I go through and I picture my older sister and then my brother, and I go through and I actually picture my family members, and then I picture like my fiance, and I picture my best friend, and then I get reconnected, and it feels like it eliminates some of that anxiety because you're not alone. And like that is one of those major pillars of anxiety, is like just feeling alone. So I love that you say that. Absolutely.
And to add to that, I hope I'm kind of quoting it right, but I heard that, and I very much agree with it, that if you're experiencing depression, you're focused on past events. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, obviously there are aspects of feeling as though there's nothing to look forward to and all that stuff, but it's all rooted and based on previous experiences.
Yes.
If you're anxious, you're focused on the future. You're focused on the anticipation of something happening, or somebody saying something that's
connected to
that you might never be thinking. Mm-hmm. So depression, past, anxiety in the future, and that leaves the present. And by being more in the present, you actually, by unplugging, being off your phone, and not thinking about scheduling tomorrow's next event or tonight's thing with your friends or whatever it is, and you just are more present, you're able to almost immediately relieve depression and anxiety.
Yeah, I love that.
Because you're just the here and the now, and this is what you can control, and this is it.
Yes, that, and then I think that to piggyback off that, do you know who Dr. Joe Dispenza is? That
name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's he wrote the book You Are the Placebo. It talks all about like taking over your body, and like how we are in a state where our minds, like just the way that the US is, like we're controlled by our bodies, not our minds. And however whatever our body feels, we're like, oh, that's the reality. Yeah. The anxiety, we're like, oh, I just have anxiety now, instead of like, well, our mind breaking it down. But he talks about how then we create patterns of anxiety and patterns of depression, and that we are, I believe it's 5 times more likely to stay in a known state of misery, so either depression or anxiety, than to move on to an unknown state, which could actually be a joyful experience. But we are so afraid of the unknown that we're more likely to stay in depression, anxiety than actually move on to like joyous states, because it's unknown, and we get comfortable actually staying in those states of depression and anxiety because we're like, oh, that's what's familiar. At least I know it. It's bad, but I know what it is. I know what's there.
Absolutely. I mean, we're very routine based, you know, and so I think there's a lot to that.
Yeah.
But
I know, it was a little tangent there.
yeah, but it's true. And, you know, as somebody who has kind of jumped off the metaphorical cliff a few different times to, you know, quit this job and try this thing or whatever, and then, you know, certainly move to Nashville to start bYKYND, you almost never regret taking that chance on yourself.
Never.
It is never once.
I never have. I never have.
Because and the way I see it, and I mean this in an optimistic way, from an optimistic standpoint, but when you're in a real bad spot, it's like, what do I have to lose? You know, instead of thinking, let's just kind of stay put and, be comfortable
safe.
with this and be safe. It's like, fuck it. Like,
Yeah.
what do I have to lose? Let's just swing for the fences, because worst case, we're
I go
right
back to
where
this.
we
Yeah,
are.
exactly. Yes.
And so I think the second you kind of hit that rock bottom, or find yourself in a bad spot, you're like, okay, like,
it's almost kind of freedom in it, because you don't
for
feel like you
sure.
have that much to lose.
Yeah, because you're just like, let's pack up and leave LA and move to Nashville and start a company. Why
So
not?
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
So that. So you graduated, and then how long were you in LA? And then you're like, when did you get the vision of bYKYND? And
Yeah, so I was in school from 2010 to 2014, and then I left LA mid 2021 during the pandemic.
Yep.
And
Same.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I was in LA total of, I was on my 11th year, 6 of which were in the professional world. I worked in the boutique fitness industry for a few years. I was in entertainment marketing for a few years, movie trailers and all that fun stuff. And then did some freelance work in live TV. And throughout, all these different industries and experiences, I just had never found what I was meant to do. I liked different jobs for different reasons. Everything has its pros and its cons, and they all absolutely served me the best they could for where I was in my personal and professional careers in life. Mm-hmm. So I'm very grateful for all that experience, because it all gave me the foundation to be able to do what I'm doing now.
Love it. Yeah.
And
exactly.
so, from unsolicited advice for any younger person out there, the best thing you can do, unless you know exactly what you want to do, is just try things. Because you could always quit a job. I quit so many jobs.
Same.
And that's okay. Like, it feels weird, but when you're in it, you feel as though no other industry or career path exists. You just kind of have your horse blinders on. Like, if I don't do marketing, I'm never going to work again. And then the second
we live under the illusion that, like, we're kind of like, we're special in that space, and it's like, if you died, then like that same week they would replace you.
We're all replaceable.
We're all replaceable. Yeah,
especially in from an employment standpoint.
Yeah,
and it's just, but the second you leave that job, you realize, like, oh, all these other people do other stuff, and there's so many other opportunities out there, and you're like, then it really is a sense of freedom. It's like, I can do anything. Yeah. Like, I can literally, like, do anything. Apply to NASA right now. Like, I'm not going to get in, but I can do it. Like, why not? And so, it's a very freeing feeling. So try things, take risks, believe in yourself. But yeah, I mean, I
So you came out here to build bYKYND, or that happened after you moved here?
No, so I came out here to launch the company. So to answer the second part of your question in terms of, kind of where did bYKYND come from?
Yeah.
The idea initially started when I was in college. I was walking on the treadmill at the gym one day, and I saw one more, news report of a school shooting, and I was like, something's got to be done. Like, this is nonsense, and nobody's doing anything. Like, every time another horrific incident happens, everyone's talking about reform and this or that or whatever, and helping the kids, and then we all have the memory of a goldfish, and so the next day it's on to something else, and nothing ever gets done. And I was just sick and tired of that. So I was like, okay, if I ever start my own company, which was the goal at some point in the future, I was like, I'm going to do something for like youth, mental, physical, holistic wellness. And that's it. I had no idea what that was going to be and anything. And then I just kind of started, I always carried a journal with me, and I started writing down different, ideas and possible mission statements of what this could look like and whatever. And I was like, what would a cool name be? And I was working off the current big, startup names of like an Uber or an Lyft. They're one word that's spelled different, and it's a little weird, but memorable. And I don't know how I landed on. But I came up with bYKYND.
I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. It's awesome. I've looked at it like 4 times. It's great.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, well, if I ever do this idea, this is what it'll be called.
Yeah.
And then years went by, and I had worked for a handful of different employers and managers and stuff like that, and I finally got to a point where professionally I felt as though I knew a few things. Like, I wasn't a total blank slate fresh out of college, but I also, wasn't a corner office executive with a decade plus experience.
Right.
I knew a few things. I was like, okay, well, I also know the type of manager I'd want to be, the way I'd want to treat my employees, the way I'd want to manage in my way, and what I'd want to prioritize. And so I just started kind of flushing out this idea a little bit more intensely during the pandemic, because I had ample time, and I was like, you know what, my cousin Peter, who was my influence with water polo and all that stuff, he actually lives in Nashville, and
cool.
So at the time he was actually in one of the Carolinas, and I had called him to congratulate him and his wife on having their new baby, and he was like, oh, we're actually moving back to Nashville, where her family's from, to be closer to the grandparents. And they're like, you should move out, and like, you should come say what's up. And I was like, okay, yeah, why not? Because I was at the point, I was like, the only thing tying me to LA was rent. And I was like, I could break a lease, like you can pay the penalty, whatever. And I was like, yeah, like, hold that thought. So I called my folks back in Connecticut, who at this point I hadn't seen for almost 2 years because of COVID.
Wow.
And my mom's also going through breast cancer treatment, so I wasn't even gonna like drive cross country. Like, it was just not even enter the house. And so called my folks, and I was like, how would you guys feel about me moving closer to home? And of course they were ecstatic. Told them, I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna move to Nashville. And they're like, where in Nashville? I'm like, no idea, but like Nashville. And I didn't know a single thing about the city other than Peter at some point in the next like few months was going to be back here. And then 2 weeks from that day, I had sold all my furniture, my car, everything, and I loaded up a rental minivan, me and my dog Cooper, and just drove to Nashville.
That's awesome.
We pulled into the city a few days later, and met my folks at the hotel, at a hotel, and then figure out where I was going to live the next day. Started moving in, and I've been here ever since.
That's so cool.
Honestly, been one of the best decisions of my entire life.
Same for me. I realize that. That's so great. That's cool. And then it was just diving straight into building your company. Yeah,
because once I got settled, I gave myself like a month or so to transition and just kind of
get your footing.
Exactly. And then I was like, okay, now like it's on. Like
You're in it.
Yeah. I got to figure this out now. It's not just talking about starting a company. It's like starting a company.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have no idea what to do. I was like,
what was your first move?
Books. I bought a bunch of books, on all startup books, and I spent the next like 6 months.
Okay.
Sitting out by the pool of the complex, just reading.
Okay.
And I probably read like 20 plus startup books of just like how to execute, how to build, how to fundraise, legal, finance, all this stuff. Because I never had taken a business course.
Yeah.
So I needed to teach myself a little bit of everything just to kind of get the ball rolling. And then I was fortunate enough to, as I was doing all that, I stumbled upon the Entrepreneurship Center here in town.
Okay.
And walked in aimlessly. I was like, I heard this is an entrepreneurship center. I'm trying to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then after taking a tour of the facility, I joined their 6-month pre-flight program, which is basically a introductory program, 6-month course to take people like me in my situation with an idea and a dream and provide them ample resources and network throughout the city to go from idea to business plan.
Wow, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And so that was really what got me off the ground, because that allowed me to tap into Belmont and get my first like advisor for a moment. And that led me to getting my first intern through the Belmont's business school.
Okay.
And that allowed me to then get my first hire.
Love
and then
that.
every hire after that.
Okay.
So it was really the EC that was that first major domino to fall.
Yeah.
And
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it took about a year plus to kind of get off the ground, and then it's been about a year since we've entered the market.
That's awesome. And you guys are doing great.
Things are going very well.
You guys are doing great, yeah.
It's definitely taking longer than I ever thought it would to just kind of get that next win.
Mm-hmm.
It always takes longer than you think, but yeah, I mean, I feel so fortunate that I get to wake up every day and build my dream.
Yeah.
Versus working for somebody else's dream.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it 110%. And if I'm going to go in all in on something, it's going to be for me and not somebody else.
I love that.
So
that's awesome.
It's been an amazing experience so far.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm so grateful for your support. I'm already excited for the next show. Turn on notifications and be on the lookout for my next episode. Also, please share the show with anyone you feel like might benefit from listening to. Thank you for all your love and support. I will see you soon.